So the biggest news story of last week, and possibly the biggest news story in the world, was the suicide of Aaron Swartz, a 26-year-old developer and internet savant who took his life as a result of a very terrible set of circumstances surrounding his death. I'll be honest with you, I didn't know who Aaron Swartz was before I heard the news stories, and I should have known who he was. And I'm sure that I'm not the only person watching this video who had the same experience of who just kind of found out who he was as a result of what happened. Aaron, when he was 14, helped develop RSS feeds, which was quite a big feat, and he clearly a savant in the development world, and especially of his time, and was a co-founder of Reddit, like one of the biggest websites on the planet. It's quite a mind-blowing feat, and he's 26. Yeah. As far as the story goes, I'm kind of just going with what I've read on news sites, and I don't claim to know all the facts. I'm kind of going to give you a general broad painting of the picture. It's stuff I've only read on RSS feeds, ironically. And I want to kind of share with you why I'm so angry about the scenario. Well, to cut to the chase, Aaron was being sued at the time. He had, at some stage, illegally downloaded a massive amount of academic journals of a website called jstor.org. You can go check it out for yourself. From MIT. He was apparently working in the basement at MIT and doing it without MIT's knowledge. MIT was trying to sue him and have stated that they've pulled out from suing him. But he is continuing to be sued by national prosecutors. I'm not too sure how that works in the United States. So as far as I can gather, the government is still suing him at that stage, and he faced potentially 30 years in prison and up to like $1 million fine for what he did. He was downloading the books to make them more freely available and make education more widespread. That was his intention for doing it, and I can relate to that. I come from Africa, and education is a big deal here, and it's hard to come by. And if the barrier to entry is finances, then I have a problem when you have to self-educate yourself and you're forced to spend money, and you know there's this massive barrier to entry. Khan's Academy is doing some wonderful stuff on that frontier, but here was Aaron Swartz trying to do something good for people in general, and as a result getting punished overly severely. People in South Africa unfortunately go to do less time and are punished less for being multiple homicide murders, and it's bizarre to me that somebody would punish someone anyway under those circumstances, which is extremely unfortunate. Especially because at the end of the day, the crime that is being touted is theft, and theft of a digital item, so he might be selling some people out of some money at the end of the day, but at the greater scheme of things, he's selling out of some people who were gonna just do this because they had no money. That was kind of part of his cause. So in essence, I feel that his heart was good when it came to that. The other part of the story is that Aaron was struggling from depression, and that, coupled with what was going on, leads people to likely believe that, you know, that's why he committed suicide. And yeah, they're right, most probably, because I can't assume to know everything. But my biggest worry in this whole thing is that people will use the depression as the blame. That will justify his committing suicide to themselves, the people who are prosecuting him, and won't blame what is going on or what has been going on with the prosecution as an excuse for what's happening, when in actual fact it is. And it is very unfortunate that when it really boils down to it, it was all about finances. Instead of seeing what Aaron's goal was, the contributions he's made, and the work, his lifetime work, in fact, has been completely free and for people's good, ultimately. And seeing that he might be doing this and applying it to that, and maybe it's beneficial to give away those documents. It leads me to my bigger problem with copyright, and this is probably the biggest example of why I have an issue with it, because it was in the aid of a greater need for worldwide education, and unfortunately that was taken away by a lot of people with money who own the books without questioning what Aaron is doing, and maybe working with him and partnering with him in something bigger. Yes, Aaron's not completely innocent here. I mean, he could have begun those talks and those discussions, but I don't blame him in many ways for not executing that, because the answer he's probably going to get is no, and when he does it anyway, he's probably going to get into a lot of trouble, and rather sooner than later is probably what he was thinking. So anyway, I just needed to get that off my chest, and I feel quite strongly and angry and upset about it, and I think that human beings are greedy, and when they are, it's a terrible thing, and it's even more terrible when the greed is a primary catalyst in taking away someone's life, and someone's life whose intentions were good. And to the prosecutors out there, and if you're watching this video, there isn't an excuse for this, and there's no excuse that you can make, like his depression, that makes this better. This is a problem, and pushing him for financial gain at the cost of 30 years in prison and crippling someone with $1 million is not worth it. It's not worth it. Anyway, I invite all of you to share your thoughts, and you're welcome to comment on this thread or share this with a friend and see what they have to say about it. Yeah, it was just really important to me, and yeah. Well, the biggest deal is that if you are judgmental to somebody who does this, even if you disagree with this, be careful with being judgmental, and be careful with pointing the finger and the blame, and you don't know what the other person's life is like, what their background is, what they're going through, and the consequences might be unfair. And that's actually what this boils down to, that the consequences were unfair, and ultimately they led to someone dying. And even if they had not, he would have been in prison for 30 years and potentially $1 million fine. That is ruining someone's life.